Hello guys, in this Python tutorial I will show you step by step on how to code Python using Visual Studio. And Python is a mostly popular programming language, and it is used for mostly for web development, software development, mathematics, and also system scripting. So knowing on the best tool to use to code in the Python is the best way you can learn Python. So step number one, as usual, you need to install a Visual Studio. So to install a Visual Studio, you need to go to the visualstudio.com to get the app. So this is my Visual Studio code. Go to this part, then you download based on the kind of the operating system that you are using. For those who are using the Mac OS, you go for either these two. For the Windows 64 bits, you go for either of the two. Then for the Linux, for the Mac, Windows, and the Linux, you can download the version that you want. Now, let me. Currently, I'm using the Windows 64, so okay. So it might take time to download the Visual Studio. Then after it has downloaded, step number 2 is to install it. After installing, now you need now to install the Python extension on your Visual Studio code. Okay. It might take time. It's less than 30 seconds. It will have already downloaded the whole of it. So as you can see, it is showing that the setup has already detected that I've already installed the code. So this is my virtual code. So the next step come on the extension part, which is now our step number 2. You need to install the extension for you to run this thing correct. Okay, so number 1, you need to install the Python. So you need to install this one, Python by the Microsoft. That is step 1. Okay, step 2. After that, you need now to also install. You need to install the runners, the code runner. You also need to install this. So those are the 2 mandatory things that you are supposed to install. Number 1, you need to install the Python, and number 2, you need to install the code runner, and specifically the one that I've shown you. So you install this one. Okay, having done that, so the next step number 3, is to install Python on your computer. If the Python is not installed on your computer, you need now to visit the python.org to download it and install the latest version. And during the installation, you need to make sure that the option for the add Python to the system path, you need now to add the Python to the system path. This ensures that the virtual code can locate the Python interpreter. Okay, let's go and check whether we have installed whether it is installed. So you need now to open the command prompt. After opening it, you need to type the py, which stands for the Python, to confirm whether the Python is installed in your machine. Then we have py -- version, then you click the enter. As you can see, the Python is already, we have in my machine, I have Python 3.1.2.0.0, that's the version that I have. But if at all you find that the Python is not installed in your machine, now you need now to go to the python.org, and you download and install the latest version. So this is the python.org. So go to this one. It will already detect the type of operating system that you're using. As you can see, in my computer, I'm currently using the operating system Windows. So I will download this one. Then the next step is to install. Let me show you step by step. So you go to modify, then next. Then on this part, this is now the most important part, the advanced option. Now you need to select pre-compile standard library, and those are the two things that you're supposed to do. You had the Python environment, and these are the part. Then you leave the remaining two blank. Then you install your Python. I already installed my Python. Okay, having done that, we move now to step number 4, to create a Python project in Visual Studio. Remember, after you have already downloaded and installed, you can confirm whether you have done the correct thing by going to your command prompts, and you type py -- version, and it will show you the version that you have installed. Okay, now let's go back to my Visual Studio. Okay, so what I have, I've already installed the runner. So the next step is to create a Python project. So you open the Visual Studio Code and you create a Python project by selecting the file. Then you go to new file, and when saving the file, so I need to save this one. Let's say that this is Stanley. I'm use the word training. Then don't forget to include the py. Then you save your document. So that's the correct way that you're supposed to save. It must have the extension py, which stands for. Alternatively, you can create a new folder for your project and you save your Python files inside. Okay, so we have created the first file of our. Okay, now step number 5 is to select the Python interpreter. In the lower right corner of the Visual Studio, you will find select Python interpreter status bar, and now you need to click Python interpreter for your project. Then you choose the interpreter that responds to the Python that you have installed. So I will not go to that extent, but I will show you, since I've already installed this one, there is no reason to worry whether it's going to work or not, but definitely it is going to work. So let's try to write at least a line Okay, this is my training video. So after writing your first code, the next step is to run your Python script, and you simply need to open your terminal. So this is my terminal, or you can use this one, either the output or the terminal. It will actually give you the same output. So as you can see, you have this button for the run. So you click the run button, and if you run the button, it will show you now the output. As you can see, this is the output. This is my first training video. So congrats, you have successfully set up your Python in Visual Studio Code in your computer. So enjoy the seamless development experience and take the advantage of the Visual Studio Code, which is rich in different features to enhance your Python coding journey. So in the next video, I will show you now deeper part of the Python, the history, how to prepare variables, how to comment in the Python. So that's what. So first we will start with the history of the Python, and you will find that Python, unlike other languages, we can use the Python to develop for the purpose of web development, software development, mathematics, and also the system scripting. The main advantages of using the Python is that Python works on different platforms, that is on Windows, Mac, Linux, among other operating systems. Advantage number two, Python has a simple syntax similar to the English language. So you will find that learning Python is quite simple for anyone. Another advantage is that Python has a syntax that allows the developer to write programs with fewer lines. And lastly, Python runs on an interpreter system, meaning that it can be executed as soon as it is written. And lastly, it can be treated on a functional way, procedural way, and also as an object-oriented way. When you compare Python with the other programming language, you will find that the Python has an upper hand when you compare with the other languages that you will learn as we continue to learn the coding. Number one is that it's more readable because it's almost similar to English language, which is influenced by mathematics. Then another advantage over the other languages is that Python uses fewer lines to complete a command as opposed to other programming language. And lastly, Python relies on indentation using a white space to define a scope, such as the scope of loops, function, classes, and other programming language will often use the curly brackets for this purpose. Okay, let's dive to the actual thing. So let's try to create our first file. So let me try to give my file a name. So I will call this file training.py, which stands for Python. Then there goes the folder where I have stored my Okay, so as usual, the first thing is, as usual, let's try now to create a code, a program which writes hello world. So as usual, we start with the prints, open the brackets, then quotation mark, then hello world. Then after that, you run your program. So you click this, you run the code. You see, as you can see, we have successfully created a program by the name Hello World. So that is our first program on our tutorial. So if you manage to create that program, I can assure you that you are ready for this program. But if at all you fail, but there is still hope, continue to learn, go through the reading material, and you'll be able to create this first file. Having written our first program, the next step is to come up with a comment. In the Python, the commenting capability, we usually choose the hash. Example for this one. So this one, the hash will enable us. This one will enable us to comment, and it is never executed. It's just for the purpose of in-code documentation. Okay, having done that, now let's move to the next part, Python indentation. The Python indentation. In the indentation, it refers to the space at the beginning of a code line. For example, let's try to print if 10 is greater than 8, then you must have a colon. There is a space in between. There is a space in between from this point to this point. I think you can see the space in between this point, that space. That space is what we call the indentation. While in other programming language, the indentation in code is for the readability only. The indentation in the Python is very important. You must always, and note the keyword always, have indentation in the Python. If you don't involve or include indentation, your code will not run completely or correctly. Okay, for the Python, indentation indicates a block of code. Okay, so if 10 is greater than 8, print, open the brackets, you print maybe yes. Okay, let me see what will happen. Okay, run your code. You'll find that there is an error. Okay, hope you are able now to see the mistake. There is no indentation on this part. Nice. There is no indentation on that. Okay, so we have a print. You print yes, then you run your code. Okay, let me see what I have. As you can see, we have this is the output. This is the output that we have. We have the so the most important part is that we have learned that the space in between is what we refer to as an indentation, and it must be always there in the Python. Otherwise, the code will not run. And also, you need to note that the space should be at least 1. And you have to use the same number of space in the same code block of code, otherwise the Python will give you an error. Hope you are together. Okay, let's try to run another code. If 10 is greater than 11, print you print yes. Okay, let me see what will happen. Then you run your code. As you can see, nothing has been printed. This is the last printing because 10 of course is not larger than 11, but if at all you change this one to a smaller number like maybe 7, we can have yes, it's large, so that we can have a different message. Okay, let's try to run. So you can see that it has run successfully. Okay, on our next part we look at variables and variables. So we have variables is our next thing. And remember what we have said. Remember that for the comment, which we usually use the hash, it's never executed. So in this next part we have the variables, and actually variables are the containers for storing data values. You will find that unlike other programming languages, that Python has no command for declaring variable. Therefore, variables are created the moment you first assign a value to it. Okay, let's try to do it. So we have, let's assume that we have a variable like the value of x is equal to 10 and y, the value is Stanley. That's my name, Stanley. Therefore, you print x and you print y. Okay, let's see what we'll have. So what we have done, we have created the containers for storing our variables. Okay, let's try to run our code. Okay, let's see what we have. So you find that we have not defined this part. Okay, so we need now to define, because if we look at where the problem is, the error results, you need to the name of the error, name Stanley, is not defined, and you need always to define a name. So I've already defined by having this one. So let's try to run the code. Okay, let's see what we have. So as you can see, our code has run successfully. So we have the first code, we have this one, hello world, this one. Then we have this years. Then next we have these are the comment. Remember the comment, we use the hash. We use the hash to run to write a comment which is never executed. Okay, in our next part we have now the variables name that we have. For this one, we are going to cover the camel case, Pascal case, the snake case. Okay, let's start with the first one. Okay, let's start with the Pascal case, which is an example of a variable. Remember that for the essence of using this variable name is that when the variable name with more than one word can actually be difficult for one to read. Therefore, we use this some of the techniques such as the Pascal, the Camel, among others, to make our code readable. For this one, that is the Pascal. For each for each words, you start with a capital letter. For each word, we'll start with a capital letter. For example, let's have my name, my variable, then we have the name, then equal sign, then we have you have to declare the name, then we have Stanley. Or let's use another name. We can go for John so that we can distinguish it from the other. Therefore, you will print then you print this one, you copy, then you print, paste, you print my variable name, then you try to run. So you can see that we have successfully used the Pascal to run our command. Okay, let's treat again. It's too many. Let's delete that. So let's remain with the one. So the most important part is that for the scale, each word will start with a capital letter. Okay, let's go to the next one. And we have our next one, we have the snake case. Now for the snake case, it is separated by an underscore. Separated by underscore character. For example, we have my name, my variable, we have my variable, then we have the name, then the equal sign, then you declare. We have let's use another name like Jen, then you print my new variable, then you run your code. Okay, let's see what we have. As you can see, the SNES is working. We have already successfully printed the name Jen. Okay, in our last part, we have the camel case. We have the camel case. So we have the camel case, and for the camel case, you start with each word except the first one start with a capital letter. Each word start with capital letter except first letter. Okay, for example, my variable, the name. Note that the first one should, an equal sign should always start with the small letter. Okay, so use the name like Johnson or Johnson. Okay, then you print, then you have my name. Okay, run your code. You'll find that we have successfully printed the name Johnson. So what we have learned from these 3 lines is that we have the snake case, camel case, and lastly the Pascal. In our next part, then we have another scenario whereby you have to declare many values to multiple variables. So the Python will allow you to assign values to multiple variables in one line. For example, so in our next part we have multiple variables. For example, we have A, B, and C. We will assign them the first one, we have mango. The next one we have bananas. And the last one we have maybe we can pick a fruit like oranges. So the next part is let's try to print. You print A, print B, and you print C. Okay, let's try to run it. There is a problem. It says that invalid so we have invalid syntax. Okay, let's make a correction on it. Okay, we forget to include the equal sign. Okay, that's where the problem was. Okay, so if at all you make a mistake, of course you do not be able now to print. So we have A, B, C. So this is whereby you deal with the multiple. So this one will make your work more simpler when declaring these variables. Okay, so in our next part we have having done that, all the cases of variables. So we have camel, snake, and the Pascal. Okay, let's move to the next part, the output variables. For the Python, the print opening closing brackets function is often used to output the variables. Okay, let's try to still work on this one. So rather than having to use the Python print as for the output function, okay, let's try to copy this line so that we can do the next part. Okay, let's assume that you want to have only one print function. So I will use print, then brackets, then we have a plus a plus b plus c, and close the brackets. Okay, let me try to run and see what I'll get. Okay, you can see that I've been now able to print the mangoes, bananas, but you will find that they are all joined together. So in order to separate this one, so I will copy this one, paste, then go for the other one, bananas. Then for the C, okay, let me try to run it. Okay, let's use the commas. Okay, so you will find that in the print function, your output multiply are always separated by a comma. You will find that whenever now we separate with the comma, the results with that this one will be separated, as you can see. So we have the mango, bananas, and lastly oranges. So if you use the the plus operator to output multiple variables, you will always notice that the space in between, there will not be any space between the variables that we have. So all the words will be joined together, the results. So to avoid that, you always use the comma. So you use the comma to separate. Use comma to separate variables. That's very important to note. Okay, so we had through with that part. Okay, in our next part, still on variables, we have global variables. And variables that can be created out of the function are all known as the global variables. And the global variables can be used by everyone, both inside the function or outside the function. And if you create a variable with the same name inside the function, this variable will be local and can be used inside the function. And the global variables with the same will remain. So we have a global variables. Okay, let's come up with an example. For example, we have D is equal to good news. then define my function, then we have a colon there, then you need now to print. Remember, we are trying to combine this one with what we have in our function. And what we have in our function, we have learning Python. Save is good news. Save is then we had what we have in our global variable d. Then next part, you have my function, then you try to run. Okay, run your command. Okay, let's do to the other part so that you can have a clean look. So you find that whenever we try to run things, this code is not giving any results. And the mistake is that this one, my function to be at the start of the line. Okay, let's try to run it. So you can find that we have been able now to run our code. So learning Python itself is good news. So let's try to create a space there. So remember that everything that you do, you find that when we have a closing marks at that point, there will not be any space. But if you create a space, it will definitely create a space at the results based on. So what we have covered the variables, how to add comments, and also the importance of indentation in the Python. Okay, so in our next lesson, we will cover Python data type, Python numbers, and Python casting, those two things. So ensure that you like, click that notification bell, and also you subscribe so that we can continue learning together. Hello guys, welcome back to Python tutorial. In today's lesson, we are going to look at the different types of data types that we have in Python. And we need to remember that in programming, data types are really important. And specifically in Python, the variables can store data of different types, and different types can do different things. For example, we have these categories. Category 1, we have the text type. Category 2, we have numeric type. Category 3, sequence type. 3, we have the mapping. 5, site type. 6, balloon type. 7, binary type. And 8, we have the none type. What you need to remember on this one is that each of the category will play different roles in the in the data storage. For example, if you look at, let's start with the first case, the text type. For example, let's have, we will do example on each of the 5 cases, not the 5 cases, but the 8 cases. So we have text. We have the text. For the text, we have the string. We have the string. Okay, let me write the comment. We have the string, which is abbreviated as str. Okay, for example, if you want to write or to store a data in form of a string, this is how you execute it. For example, we have x, okay, x equals sign. We have the string. Then we can have open the brackets. Then we have hello Lana, how are you? Okay, so let's try to print. You print x. Okay, then we run our code. So you can see that we have successfully written our, okay, maybe we can have this as a capital letter. Okay, let's try to run. So you can see that we have successfully run our code. So that is how we write codes on in the form of a string. Okay, let's move to number 2. Number 2, we have Python numbers, or the Python type. For the Python type, we have 3. We have 3 of them. Number 1, we have the int. 2, we have the float. And 3, we have the complex. Okay, let's start with the first one. For the first one, which is int, for the int stand for the integer. So this one will stand for the integer. And it's supposed to be a whole number, a positive or a negative without a decimal point, of a limiting length. So the most important part is for the integer, it is supposed to be a positive whole number, whether negative or positive, without, the keyword is without a decimal point. And this is how we execute it. For example, we have example y is equal to 10, print so you print y, but we need to make a correction on this. Supposed to be int for integers, then brackets, then we run our code. So the most important part is that for the integer, it is also have any point. Okay, let's move to the next part. As you can see, we have executed our code correctly. This is the answer. So the next part, we have the hash float. For the hash float, we have w is equal to floats brackets 27 0.99. Therefore, you need now to print. You print W. So what you need to remember on the case of float is that a float is a number or a positive or negative which contain one or more decimal places. So the difference between the two cases is that for the integer it does not have any point, but for the float it has a point as well. So you can see that we have successfully. Okay, now let's move to the next part, which is the complex. So a complex. So we have a complex. A complex is a number written with another with the J or K, an imaginary part. For example, if you want to write this one, we have x is equal to complex (18) J. Therefore, you print the x. You can print type x. Also, the others we are supposed to have then you run your code. Okay, it will bring some mistake, so let's correct this one. So this is the type of data that we have. W. And for this one, for the complex, it will supposed to print the x. Then you run your code. Let me see what I have. So we have the integer, float, and lastly complex. So we have just covered the three types of data that we have. That is int, float, complex. So next we have Python casting. And Python casting, this is whereby you will find that sometime when you want to specify a type on to a variable, this can only be done by casting. Therefore, Python is an object-oriented language, and in such, it uses classes to define data types, including its primitive types. Casting in Python is therefore correct reason is therefore done using the constructor function. That is we have sorry for this. So we have number one, the int, And 2, we have the int float. We have a float. And lastly, we have the string. Now for this one, for the first one, for the int, construct an integer number from an integer literal, a float literal. This is by removing all the decimal, or a string literal, providing the string represent a whole number. For example, let's have y is equal to an int. Then we give an example number like 5x is equal to int a number like 4.8, and lastly z we have an int number like 7. Okay, so let's try to, so we print y, print x, and you print z. Okay, let's try to run our code. Okay, so you will find that if the casting is on integers, it will remove all other part. For example, for this one, it has removed the point. On this one, it has removed this other part. Therefore, it has printed 5, 4, and 7. Okay, let's move to the next part. That is for the float. And for the float, it will construct a float number from an integer literal, a float literal, or a string literal, providing a string represent. And it is okay. Let me copy this one to make my work easy. Copy. Okay, let's try to print it the way it is. Okay, try to run. Okay, then we need to change the name. We have a float, and float. Remember, floats should always have, it will always have a point. Then we run. Let me see. So you can see that it has inserted a point. Okay, let's move to the next part, the string. Okay, so we move to our last part of casting, that is the string casting. And for the string casting, it will construct a string from a wide variety of data types, including strings, integer literal, and the float literal. So what you need to change, we need now to change this part because we have copied to str for the string, and then we run our code. So that's the result that you will get. So for the string, it will just print the way it is. It will not omit anything. Okay, having done that, let's move now to the next part. So next we have the Python balloon, and for the balloon, it will represent one or two values that is either true or false. So we have only two things. A statement can be true or can be false. Those are the two options that we have. You can evaluate an expression in Python and you will get either of the two answers, that is the true or the false. When you compare two values, the expression is evaluated and the Python will always return the balloon answer that is either true or false. For example, let's try to compare two statements. We have 27 is greater than 30, and let's try to see what we'll get. So we run. So you'll find that the answer is false because of course 27 is less than. Okay, let's have another scenario. 27 is greater than 25. Then we run, and you will find that the answer is true because of course 27 is greater than. Then you can also have another scenario whereby we can have 30 is equal to 27. Okay, let's try to run and see what we'll get. So you'll find that it will give us a false statement. So the most important part on balloon is that it will only give you two answers, either true or false. Okay, now let's try to evaluate values and variables. So the bool function will allow you now to evaluate any value and give you a true or a false answer. Okay, let's go to the next part, still on the balloon side. Okay, for this one, we have evaluate values. The variables, for example, we have print, then we have the bool, hello Lana, then so you'll find that it will give true. Okay, still on that one. I need now you note the different. So we have bool, then we leave it empty. Okay, you will note that when you leave the value, when it's empty, you can see that it will return true when the argument x is true or false otherwise. The inbuilt true and the false are the only two instances of the class bool, and the class bool is a subclass of the class int and cannot be subclassed. So still on that, you will find that almost any value is evaluated to true. Any value, it will always evaluate. For example, for this one, it will always give you, for this one, it will give you true if it has some sort of content. Content is the most important part. Whatever the type of content it has, it always gives you the answer true. Any string is true except an empty string. Then another point is that any number is true except 0. Any list, sample, set, dictionary are always true except when empty. So you will find that if it is empty, it will always give you the answer false. So that's the most important part for when it comes down to the balloon evaluation. I hope that you have noted that. But you'll find that some values are false. There are some value that evaluate to false except empty value. For example, the number 0 and value 9. Okay, let's try to do it. Okay, so we have a print. Okay, let me see what to. So if you have by like 0, 0. Okay, let's try to run and see what we will get. So for the 0, it will always give you false. So actually these are the values that are always false. So number 1, okay, we have the 0, we have open brackets, next we have this one, it will always give you, and that one, this one, and the value false. That we have agreed that all these will always give you a false answer. Okay, let's move to the next part. Still on my balloon. Okay, let's try to come up with a function that returns a balloon. Okay, you can create a function that returns a balloon value that is either false or true. Okay, for example, we have define my function. You define my function. Then so you return true if my function, so you return true if my function prints prints here, else you print otherwise you print no. Okay. Okay, let's try to see what we have. There is a mistake somewhere. There is a problem. So there is an expected and intent block after function definition on line 59. Okay, so is it indentation here? I hope we still remember what we had said. We need to have indentation. Okay. Okay. Hope you have noted. So you are supposed to create a space after the first line that you create. Otherwise, it will always give you that error mistake. So we have now been able to write a function that gives amperlone answer. So you have you define. Okay, let's try to change. For example, okay, let me copy this one. We paste it here. Okay, what if we have false? Okay, let's see what we'll have. So define my function, return false if my function print here. Else you print no. Okay, let me try to run. So you can see that it has printed no, since we have commented our function to print no if the function print yeah. Okay. So we will start with the Python operators, and we need now to remember that operators are used to perform operation on variables and values. They are supposed to perform two things, that is operation on variables and the values. So we will cover these categories. Category number 1, we have arithmetic operators. Category 2, assignment operators, comparison operators, logical operators, identity operators, membership, and lastly the bitwist operator. Okay, let's start with the first category, and that is arithmetic. Okay, for the arithmetic, this one is the most common one, and we will look at addition, subtraction, division. We have multiplication and division. Then we have others like the modulus. We have the modulus. We have these. We have explanation, and lastly the floor division. So those are the things that we are supposed to cover on the arithmetic operation. Okay, let's start with the first case. And the first case we have addition, and for us to do addition, so we 10 plus 23. Then we run our program. So you'll find that when you add this one, it will give you this. Okay, let's move to the next part. That's for the addition. So we have subtraction. Subtraction, we have a print. I will be quite fast. This one is quite simple. 23 minus 10. Then you run a program and you will get 13. Next part, we have multiplication. Multiplication, we have print 9 multiplied by 9, which is supposed to give us 99, not 99 but 81. So here comes the answer. Then the next part, we have the division. Division, we have the one forward slash, which is a print 99 divided by 9, which is supposed to divide by 9. Then you run your program, supposed to give us 11. Okay, the next one we have modulus, and for the modulus we are supposed to have print 12 12. Then you run your program, so you are supposed to get a 0. The modulus of 12 and 2 is always supposed to be 0. Okay, next we have exponential. So we have exponential. For the exponential, we are supposed to have 2 asterisk, where we have prints 12 enter 3, then you run. So it's supposed to give you 1728. And lastly, we have the flow. We have the flow division, where we have to have so we have print 12 forward slash 3, which is supposed to give us a 4. Okay, having done that, let's move now to the next part. Let's move to assignment operator. And for the assignment operator, we look at equal plus equal minus equal among others. We have so many, so we are not going to dive into all of them, because the most important part from this one is to have, you need now to have an hint on how to go about it. For example, for this one, print x is equal to 5. X is equal to 5. We are trying to assign the x to value 5. So that is how now we assign. Remember, the keyword there is assignment operator. So we assign a certain number with another value. So you do the rest, like this one and this one and that alone, using the same procedure. Okay, let's move to the third one, comparison. Now for the comparison operator, just as the name goes, it used to compare two values. For example, we have this one. We also have this other one. We have greater. We have So this one is supposed to be there. We have greater than. We have great. We have equal, greater, and lastly less or less or equal to. So those are the comparison operators that you are supposed to learn. And maybe I've done so many examples of these. Okay, let's do at least one or two. So we have 12 is greater than 13. Okay, let's assume that we give we write our command like that. Let's see what we'll see. It will give you false because automatically 12 is not greater than 13. Okay, but if it's true, it's a port. Let's assume we have a number like 5. 12 is greater than 5. Automatically it will give you true because of course the number is greater than okay, let's move to another case. Let's move to equal sign. Let's assume that 1000 is equal to 10 1200 1200. Let me see what we'll get. We will get, of course, false because of course the two statements, or rather the two values, that are not equal. Okay, let's assume that we, and just the other side, let's know what we'll see. You will see that or rather you will find that it will give an equal the 1000 and 1000, the two values are equal. That's why it's giving us, it is giving us a true. Okay, let's move to the next one. That is Python logical. You do the rest just like we have done on this one. For the logical operators are used to combine conditional statements, and we use and, or, and not. For example, let's give example. Print x is less than 6. 10 is x is less than 12. Okay, let's try to run our code. So you have x is less than 6 and 10. So it's not no. We are supposed to change these. It's supposed to be. So we need to get rid of so that you can give a comparison. We have so we need to give the condition. The value of x is equal to 8. Okay, let me see. So it's giving us true. So the condition is that if the value of x is equal to 8, and we have x is greater than 6 and x is less than 12. So when you compare, you'll find that it is true. Okay, now let's move to the next part. So the rest, that is the or and the not, you are supposed to do the same thing. So our next part, we have identity. We have the identity. And for the identity, an identity operators are used to compare the objects, not if they are equal, but if they are actually the same object with the same memory location. So for this one, we use we use is not. So those are the operators that we use. Okay, in our next part we have the membership. For the membership, we use for the membership is actually used to test if the sequence represented is represented in an object. And for this one, we use the in and not in. Okay, next part we have the bitwist operator. And the bitwist operator it's used to compare binary numbers, and there are so many. So for this one, there are quite many. So we have, for example, we have this one, we have this one, we have this one. There are quite many among others. So the list is quite endless. So the most important part is that for the bitwist operators, we are used to compare the binary function. And that is now the end of the first part. That is on the operation, the Python operation. Okay, let's move now to the next part. In our next part, we'll look at the lists, the Python lists. So don't forget, as you continue to watch, to like and also to subscribe, and also ensure that you share with your friends so that we can continue learning together. Okay, in our next part, we have a list after the operator, and the lists, they are used now to store a multiple items in a single variables. They are supposed to store multiple items in a items. So we have different categories. We have the ordered, changeable, and those that will allow the duplicates. So those are the three parts that we are supposed to cover. That is the ordered, changeable, and allow duplicates. Okay, start with the first part. So for example, this is my list. Maybe the thing that I want to buy, the market. So there is mangoes, bananas, pineapples, and lastly avocado. Maybe those are the things that I want to buy. So let me try now to run my program. So what do I want to print? I want to print this statement, copy, into you, paste. Okay, let me try to run. So these are the things that I want now to buy. That is the mangoes. Yeah. You have the mangoes of the correct spelling. So that is how now you come up with your list. Okay, having done that, let's move now to the next part. And the next part we are supposed to look at the table. So we have this is supposed to be Python chambers. Okay, let me delete season. I hope that we are together, and from the definition is that try to clear this one. Tamples are used to store multiple items in a single variables. And you need to remember that a tuple is a collection which is either ordered or rather unchangeable. Okay, let's try to use the same example that we used. This is my template. We have mangoes, bananas, and pineapples. So let me try to print it. So what will I print? I will need to print this is my numbers. Then I run, so you can see that I'm able now to print. Okay, now let's move to the last part. In the last part we have the sets. The Python sets. So for the set, we have first we need now to define what is set, and sets are used to store multiple items in a single variables. For example, let's try to dive into my set today, and for this one we will use the curly brackets. We have mangoes, and bananas, and pineapples. So those are my sets, and we need also to remember that a set is a collection which is number one, unordered, unchangeable, and unindexed. Okay, let's try to print. So what am I supposed to print? My set. So as you can see, there is an error. The print is not defined. Did you mean print? So Yes, I meant print, so I make correction on that part. Okay, so this is my list is not defined, so you need to define. Okay, let's see. So we have this one. Then you run. Okay, so it's working now. So this is the set where we have the mangoes, bananas, and pineapple. Then you print. You should banana to print. So for now, for the last few minutes, we have covered operators, tables, sets, and lists. So in the next part, I will show you now how to create a simple calculator with what we have learned so far. Okay, so we have so remember what we had said is that we use the hash whenever you had to add your comment. So we will have add. Then number two, we'll have subtract. Then number three, we'll have multiply. These are the things that we will ensure that our calculator will be able to perform. And lastly, divide. So those are the four operations that we're going to use. So we have the add, subtract, multiply, and also divide. So in case you are wondering which kind of compile that I'm using, I'm in fact using the PyCharm to do those to do this kind of task. So we have print, and what we are printing, we are printing. Yeah, we are printing. Pick an operation to use. For example, you can pick either add. Okay, having done that, next step we have to specify number one. If you pick number one, it means that you want to use it to add. Number one, we have add. Okay, because of the time, I would rather copy this one. Then we make number two. If you pick number two, you'll be trying to subtract. Okay, if you pick number four, you'll be trying to multiply. While if you pick number 4, you will be trying to divide. So we adjust here. So we have 3 and 4. Okay, let's try to run and see what we get. So we'll see that there is an error. Yes, there is a problem somewhere. Okay, so the syntax error was never closed. So this part was not closed. So we need to close it. Okay, let me see what we have. So you can see that we have the add, the subtract, we have this one, multiply, and also divide. And the process is complete. So we are through with our first part. Okay, let's try to key in okay. So next we have operation. Then we have input that you can key in. Okay, let's try to run this one. Okay, as you can see that it is now possible now to key in something. Okay, now let's input our condition. So condition number 1, if the operation is equal to 1, what should I do? So for condition number 1, we'll have add. So we have the add, elif, and elif in Python means that if the previous condition were not true, then try this condition. So this condition will be operation. We have operation equal, then we have condition 2. For this one, we'll have condition 2 is supposed to be subtraction. This is subtraction. Then if the subtraction condition is not true, we move now to the next one. And the next condition, which is our condition number 3, is supposed to be multiply. So this is a multi. Okay, if the condition for the multiply is not met, we move now to the last condition, elif operation. Then condition 4, which is our condition 4 is supposed to be division, else you print. So what do you want to see? So you print invalid entry. So that's what I would expect to see. Okay, let's try to run our code. Okay, you will see that there is an error in line number 17, and the reason is that we have not keyed in the condition. Okay, now let's come up with the condition. For this one, we have number 1 equal, then let's try to input. What do you want to input? So we need now to input let me see, enter the first number, colon, okay, copy this one, copy, paste. So this should be the second number. Then you need now to print. What should you print? We start with, okay, so we need now to print, because we are on the first one, supposed to be the sum. For the first one is supposed to be the sum of which number? We have the number that we have number 1 and number 2. So that is our first condition. Okay, let's move to number. So to save time, I will copy this one, then I will paste, then I'll change the term. So for this one, subtraction, this should be subtraction, and well, this one should be addition. So for this one, supposed to be multiplication. Then we use asterisk for multiplication, and lastly we move to the last condition, which is now the division. For division, we use now the forward slash. Okay, let's try to run our code, and we can see that right now it's not showing any kind of error. Okay, let's try to key in a number. So let's try to enter the first number 2. There's a second number, that's our 5, 3, and okay, there's an error. Okay, let's try to correct this one. We need now to add the integer on this one. We need to add the integer and the string. So on this one we have okay, let's start with the string followed by int integer. Then we have this one intention, then we close the brackets, and we have that one and that other one. They're supposed to be 3. Okay. Okay, let's try to do the same thing. So because of time, I will copy this one, then I will paste on here, then change the sign. Okay, let me see. So we have done the last part. Then you have to input the forward slash, then try to run your code. Okay, let's see what we have. A leave operation. Okay, let me see where the problem is. So we have a string integer number 1. So we need now to close this one. Okay, that's where the problem is. So you have to close and close for number 1. Okay, let's try now to run it again. Okay, it's working better now. Okay, let's try to key in a number like 1. First number we have 3. Second number we have 5. Okay, still showing a error. Okay, name number 2 is not defined. Did you mean number 1? Okay, I get it. Okay, let's try to run it again. I can see where the problem is. Okay, we have 1 and we have 1. Let me see. Yeah. Okay, let me see. So we go back to our okay, I can see where the problem is. So this one is supposed to be 2 and not noted the reason. This is supposed to be 2, but 2, but 2. Okay, I'll try to run it again. Okay, should be better now. So 1, so we have 2, then the other number 3. Okay, it's giving us 5, better. Okay, let's try a bigger number, 1, 67 plus 10. Nice, it's working now. Okay, let's try let's try to go for deviation for 100 divided by 10. It's 40, so it's working. So we can see that the code is correct. You can see that where the mistake was. So that's how now you create a simple calculator using the string, number type, and indentation. So those are the keywords that you need to be knowing by this time for you to be able now to come up with a simple calculator. Okay, now let's try to try that of subtraction. 37 minus 7. It's working. Okay, let's try now the last one. That is a multiplication. We have not done the multiplication, so we have 3, and we have 30 multiplying by 2, and you get 60. So that is how we create a simple calculator on Python. So after watching, in case you have any question or you rather require to get a clarification, just write down your question on the comment section. I will get back to you as soon as I see your comment. So thank you for taking time to watch. Don't forget to